And then we also discuss server computers are there, especially in the internet. We get the information through websites, and the websites are stored in a special computer known as web servers. So server computer provides different services. So for that, we have a very powerful computers called server computers. Right. Okay. Then we discuss the peripheral devices. The term peripheral devices are used to talk about the different devices connects to the computer. Now, for example, we have input devices such as microphone. We can input sound. We can use a keyboard. You can type something. We can use a mouse. You can use mouse movement to offer commands. So those are input devices. Then when it comes to monitors, the printer, speakers, we call output devices. So monitor display the output. Printer, you can get a what we call the hard copy. So monitor, we get a soft copy, right? Which means you cannot touch. Then there are storage devices like flash drives, hard drive, optical disk. The storage devices are used to store some data, right? And then we were looking at the computer specification. When you want to purchase a computer, you have to look at several things, right? So meaning we have to look at what exactly you need. When you take a book, you know that you think about the size of the book, whether it's a A4, B5, and so on. And then you concern about the number of pages. Depend on the subjects, you sometimes prefer 40 pages, sometimes 200 pages, right? And the thickness of paper, sometimes it also matters. Depend on whether you are using a pencil or pen, right? Or a gel pen. Depend on that, sometimes you have to select the paper as well. Then whether it's a single rule or double rule or square rule book, right? So that also something you look for when you purchase a book. So likewise, the computer, right? We have to focus on few things. One thing, we talk about the processor, which means the speed of the computer is very, very important. We talk about the speed of the computer measured in the unit called hertz. Simply, you can put hertz means the number of instructions you can execute per second, right? So usually computers are speed are measured using megahertz or gigahertz. So 1000 megahertz is equal to 1 gigahertz. So usually nowadays computers, the modern computer speed ranging from 3 gigahertz to 4 gigahertz and so on. So that is like typical range that when you're purchasing a computer. And then there are like different processor manufacturers are there, like Apple computers, Intel computers, Intel processors, and AMD processors, and so on. So there are different processor manufacturers. So that also sometimes you have to look at it, depend on your purpose, what exactly you need. Right. Right. Then we have type of processors also important. Now, some computers, you have a one processing unit, which we call single core. Some processors, you have a two processing units we call dual core. And some we have, four processing units, so quad core. The recent computers, you also have hexa core. Hexa means 6. You have a 6 CPUs inside the processor, right? Then they are very capable of performing calculations. So very important. So that part also we have discussed last time. Right. Few things we have actually noted last time is Pentium 1, Pentium 2, Pentium range computers usually comes under single core computers. That means you have one processing unit inside the processor. If you take dual core and core to do, then you have two processing units, right? That means two cores are there. The newer version, when you want to purchase a computer nowadays, right, they comes as i3, i5, i7, and i9. So usually they have quad core, right? You have four cores, four processing cores inside this processor. So these are some of the things you have to look at it. Then The next one is a hard disk space, very important. I think we have performed out 1.3. Right. We discussed these devices. Okay, so here we have looked at last time. Now, one thing I have discussed is how to look at your speed of the computer. Right, let me share and tell you exactly how I did it in my machine. So you can go to Start, or you can go to Windows Explorer. So when you click on the Windows Explorer, so usually you have this PC, and when you right click on it, you have properties. The properties will give you this. So this is the configuration in my machine, right? So in this particular case, in my machine, you will see my machine, the processor is Core i7. i7 means I have 4 process cores, and the speed is 2.3 gigahertz. So that's the speed of my computer. Right. Okay. Then we will also have the RAM. RAM we have not discussed yet, but we'll come to that one. So that is like the memory capacity. So that is about 8 gigabytes in my case, right? So then I have also installed the Windows 10, home edition. Again, we will discuss the details later on. This is the operating systems you will see, and the manufacturer is Asus Tech. Actually, processor is the Intel processor, right? So these are the details you should look at when you're given a computer. You should now be able to identify what the processor type, right? How many cores are there? So those details you should know, right? So the main memory, manufacturer, CPU type, CPU speed, the type of a processor, you should be able to know this one, right? Okay. Now, before we move on, I think this is what we have, filled last time. So along this one, I will have a couple of examples I will show you, and then I want you to identify these three, right? And I want you to type it in the chat and send it to me. So identify the name of manufacturer, identify the type of processor, and identify the speed of the processor, right? I will give you some specifications, right? So let's start with that exercise, and then we'll continue with the today's lesson. So as I told you this, I will first share a machine, right? So let me start with this one. Identify the manufacturer, identify the type of processor manufacturer, type of processor, and the speed, right? Are you ready? Nobody answers. Dhananji? Right. Okay. So let me share the first one, right? This is the first one. Right. I'll go to the page. So some details are here. And then you can get the details. So the details I need, I will share. Processor manufacturer, Yes. That's the first thing I want to know. Then type of a processor, which means whether it's a single core, dual core, quad core, hexa core, whatever. And the speed. I need these three things. Dhananjay, can you tell me like what is the who's the processor manufacturer?
Intel.
Yes, it's Intel. And then NetMe, can you tell me the type of the processor? Seniru, what is the type of the processor?
Core i5.
Yeah, meaning how many cores are there? Yes, it's a Core i5. If you refer the table, remember the table? Yes, refer the
Quad-core.
table. Yes, it's a quad core one,
Quad-core.
meaning you have 4 cores. Third one, let me, what is the speed of the computer? Processor speed? So it's under processor, right? What is the speed? Let me.
4.2 gigahertz.
Yes, it should be 4.2 gigahertz. So the answers, let's take down, right? So the things that we are going to type is processor manufacturer, right? And then type of the processor, and then speed, right? So these are the three things I want to take down. The first one, it's Intel, and it's quad-core processor, and speed is 4.2 gigahertz, right? So let's move to the next one, right? I will give you another spec. So earlier one is i5, right? So i5 machine. Yes, I think this is the place where you can look at for details. Okay, we'll try to answer this, the same three things that we have discussed. Okay, who's the processor manufacturer? Let me.
Intel.
It's Intel, good. Dhananjay, can you tell me what is the type of the processor?
Dual core.
It's a dual core processor. You have 2 cores. Senru, what is the speed of the processor?
Three 3.00 gigahertz.
Yes, we have 3 gigahertz. Yes, we have 3 gigahertz processor. So let's take down this. So I will take down this here. So you can also take down. So we have Intel processor. So this is dual core. And this is 3.0 gigahertz. Right. Let me put another one there. So this time I will give you so it's a tab computer this time. Right. Right. Senir, can you tell me the type of the processor? Sorry, processor manufacturer?
Intel.
Yes, it's Intel. Dhananji, can you tell me the type of the processor?
Quad core.
It's a quad core because we have 4 cores are there, so it's a quad core processor. NetMe, can you tell me the speed of the computer?
1.86 gigahertz.
Yes, 1.86 gigahertz. Good. So what we had was Intel Atom processor. Intel, you can just say Intel. It's an Atom processor. And then the type of the processor is quad core, right? And then the speed was 1.86 gigahertz. Right. I will give you one more. Right. Okay. Stenheru, no, I mean, NetMe, can you tell me what is the, who are the manufacturer of the processor? So about the processor details are here. So who's the manufacturer of this processor? Yes. Senhiru?
iPad OS.
And that is operating system. My question is
Apple.
It's Apple, yes. Basically, it's Apple processor.
Apple.
Dharanji, can you tell me the type of processor?
Hexacore processor.
It's a hexacore. You have 6 cores. Good. NetMe, can you tell me the speed of the processor?
1.8 gigahertz.
Yes, you have 4 1.8 gigahertz and then 2 3 gigahertz. So it's both 3 and 1.8 because 2 cores you have 3 gigahertz, right? And then there are 4 1.8 gigahertz processors are there. Right. So let's take down the details. So the last one that we have discussed, the processor is an Apple processor. And this is hexa-core. You have 6 cores. And then here, actually, there are 2 processors with 3 gigahertz. And then 4 processors with 1.8, right? Is it 1.8? Yes, 1.8 gigahertz. Right. I hope now you have a good understanding about the processor details. So if you're going to assemble a computer, that means if you're going to make a computer by yourself, you should know what exactly you are going to have, right? Okay. So let's switch to the lesson again. So we will look at exactly what we have. In this particular case, we will start looking at, right, the processor we have completed. The next one is a hard disk space. You know, that is about the storage, right? So storage details, we need to, look at it. For example, the space that you have in your computer, right? So let me show you like my computer. So in this particular case, I'm going to share my screen, and the hard disk, usually you have to go to this computer, and when you go to this computer, you will see that this is the hard disk. You see the capacity, right? So in my machine, you will see the size of the hard disk is 475 gigabytes approximately. This is actually 500 gigabytes. So when I purchase it, they mentioned that the size approximately 500 gigabyte. Exactly, it's 475. Right. So likewise, if you also go to your machines, you should be able to know your size. Right. Now, can you look at your machine and let me know the size of the hard disk in your machines? Yes, Dhananji, what is the size of the hard disk of your machine?
$310 gigabytes.
310 gigabytes. Do you have one partition or 2 partitions? You have C, D, E, or you just have a C? So in my machine, for example, I have C only. Yes, Dhananji? Do you have only one partition in your machine, or there are multiple partitions like CD or CDE and so on?
CDEF.
Right. So if you have CDEF, Sometimes you have CD-ROM also with the letter, but other things you have to add them up, like this one. So if you go to the example, it is where I have seen this. If you have C and D, for example, hard disks, let me show you a picture first. Right. This is an example I have seen in the web. So in this machine, we have a hard disk named as CDEFHIL. So there are like, these are not actually, normally you have a one hard disk, but there are multiple partitions, right? So that's why they have labeled as CDENFHIL and so on. So if you want to know the exact hard disk space, you have to add everything together. Now, for example, we have about 70 GB here. This is about 100. So when you add them up, you will get 170 gigabytes and so on. So likewise, if you have multiple partitions, when you say the hard disk space, you have to add them up and you have to tell me the final answer. So in my machine, as I told you earlier, I have only one partition. So it's the size then, right? In my case, it's a partition. So I have a 475 gigabytes. So that's the size of my hard disk. Right, let me, what is the size of your hard disk? Let me, can you share your machine with me? Can you share the screen? Let me allow you to share. Multiple participants. Now I think you should be able to share your screen. Can one of you share your screen? Dhananjay, let me. Click on the share screen button and then you can share your screen with us. Okay, good. Dhananjay is sharing her screen with us. Okay, so you have these C, D, E, and F. You can neglect F, but you can look at the hard disk space. So can you right click on C? Right click on C. Go to properties. I don't see the hard disk space. So can you right click? Okay, so this is what we will get. See, you have 310. Good. Can you do the same for the other two as well? So this is for the size of C, right? It's only a part of it. Good, you have 310. Okay, you have to share the screen again. Yes, can you go to D, right click on it, select the properties. This is D. D again, you have 310. Good. Again, the screen sharing stopped. Okay, so E also you have about 310 gigabytes. Good. So approximately if you add them up, you get 930 gigabyte. I guess your approximately your hard disk is equal to 1 terabyte, right? Although it's 930, right? So it's approximately 930. Right, good. I think that's exactly what I want to see. Good. Thanks, Dhananji. So likewise, I hope the others can also look at your machines. And by looking at your machines, you should be able to know the size of the hard disk. Okay. Right. So let's move on to the next one then. Let me share my screen again. So that's about the hard disk space, right? So let's go to the workbook 1.4, right? So this is the 1.4 activity. You look at the hard disk drives, you combine the value, and then you have to look at the size of it, right? Okay. So let me give you some examples since we don't have. I will share the other computers, and then we will see whether you can come up with their hard disk spaces. So let me start with the first computer, right? What is the hard disk space for i5? Yes. What is the size? Yes, Tenhiro. What is the size of the hard disk? Look at the storage.
512 GB.
Yes. So in this machine, the hard disk space is 512 GB. It's a solid state drive. So the recent ones, they are quite faster, not a traditional hard disk. Now what we have is what we call solid state drives. So they are faster than normal hard drives, right? So that's what you will see here. Okay, next one. Dhananji, can you tell me what is the hard space here?
250 GB.
Yes, it's a 250 GB SATA hard disk. That means normal hard disk. And it's quite old machine. So those days we had about 250 gigabytes. Right, touchpad. Senuru, can you tell me what is the hard space? Yes. Yes. What is the hard disk space?
2.0 GB.
Now that's memory. It says memory. We are discussing hard drive, hard disk space.
16 GB.
Yes, exactly. It's 16 GB. Good. Next one. I'm trying to locate the hard disk space. So hopefully there's no memory card. We have internal. It's not very clear to me whether it's a hard space or RAM. Let me check. Right. So let me check again. This is iPad Air memory space. So usually it's 4 gigabytes. It is 4th generation. Yes, it's Apple iPad 4th generation one. So this memory, internal memory means here, it's a hard disk space. You see it's a 64 gigabytes. Right. Now I think we'll take down these details with the previous one. So let me go back, right? So far we have taken down the speed details. Right, the processor speed in hard disk capacity. Let's take down this one as well. Right. So what is the hard disk space for the first one? Do you remember? Let me start from the beginning. So i5 spec, we discussed it's 512, 512 gigabytes. So space was 512 gigabytes. Then after that, we look at core to do. Core to do, it was about 250 gigabytes. $250 gigabytes. Then we have Intel Atom touchpad. Hard disk space is 16 gigabytes, right? So it was about 16 gigabytes. And finally, iPad, we had about 64 gigabytes, right? So that's the hard disk space. Right, good. I think we can move to the next one now. So let me share. Right. Now let's move on 1.4 activity. So that's the capacity. I think you have already done this one. I want everyone to know their hard disk drives. So let's move on to the next one. The monitor display. Normally, when it comes to output, most common output device is the monitor. right? So the size of the monitor matters, isn't it? Now, if I ask you, what is the size of your TV at home? Yes, Tenhiru, what is the size?
64.
64 what? The size of the monitor size. Taranchi? Usually we say 21-inch monitor. You have 21 inch. Do you say we have 21 inch? You will say 21 inch. Sometimes we say 32 inch. Yes, Dhananj, what is the size of the TV you have? Yes. Okay, let's say you have 32-inch TV size. How do you measure the size? In which direction? Like this. Let me put this as A. Is it A or is it B? Yes. Taniru, when you say that your size of the monitor is 32-inch monitor, right? How do you measure it? Along A or along B?
A.
Dhananji?
Not from both. I think from right corner to left corner.
Exactly. So we measure from corner to corner. So when you say 32-inch, the measurement will goes in like this. Right. So remember this. It's not A, it's not B. Length and width is not length and width. Right. So you measure the length of the monitor across the screen. Across the screen. Right. Remember that. Good point. Right. So when you say 19-inch monitor, so 19-inch, we measure it, we call diagonal. Across the monitor means in diagonally, we measure 19-inch monitor. So next time, I want you to know what is the size of your, yes, TV at home. Then the next thing is we have to discuss about the different technologies. When you take monitor, comes with different technologies. The three main technologies used were cathode ray tube monitor, we call CRT monitor, liquid crystal display monitor, LCD monitor, light emitting diode monitor, LED monitor. Right? So these are the three types. So if you look at from the shape, you can easily identify the old TVs we had earlier, or sometimes we do have at homes. If the size is like this, it will be bigger backside like this. Then it's with the technology comes in the CRT monitor. But if it is a flat one, what we have nowadays, there comes as LCD or LED monitors, right? So a few things you have to note about this. If you take the old computers, CRT monitors consume a lot of electricity. So electricity consumption is high, whereas LCD and LED are more efficient. And LED is the most efficient monitor when it comes to electricity consumption. Then the next one is the space you need. Now, if you take a monitor, so you need a large space to keep, like, see, if it is a CRT monitor, whereas the LCD monitor, right, they are thin, so you don't need that much of space. So usually you can hang on a wall, right? Nowadays, you can hang a TV on a wall. Right, so that's about the LCD, LED or CRT monitors. So when we look at the specs, so some machines comes with the screen and they talk about the technology as well. Let me quickly see our machine here. It's the laptop machine. So in the laptop machine, we can look at the screen details. Let me see whether we have. Okay, so it says the panel size is 15.6 inch. So that means diagonally, the measurement is 15.6 inch monitor we have, right? And the display is LED. So you can see it's a LED and size is 15.6. Let's go to do spec, but in this one, I think we don't have a monitor. So I don't think we have a monitor with here, but let me check, right? So this one, actually, we have not thought about the monitor, so that details are not here. But let's move to the touchpad. So touchpad display size is 10.1 inches, right? It doesn't say, I think, whether it's a LCD or LED, but usually they should put it somewhere, the monitor type. So in this one, actually, you can't find, right? I don't know whether I have noticed it. So the size is given 10.1 inch, and hopefully it should be LCD or LED, right? So that might be the screen type. The iPad OS, the display size is 10.9 inch, and the display type is LCD. You see here, it's a LCD type, right? Some information is there about the screen sizes. Okay. Now, can you tell me your monitor size? Do you know the size of your monitor? If you don't know, that's okay. But we should know whether this is, whether your machine, that means we should know the type, whether it's a CRT, LCD or LED. And then also now you should know the size of the monitor. So, right. So those are the two things that we have discussed so far. Okay, good. Next, we'll move on to the next one. Let me go back. Okay. So that's about the monitor. Next, the memory. Now, like in the processor is, the place where the calculations or like comparison happens. But the place where the data stores temporarily, we call it, is main memory, or we call random access memory. We will say random access memory or main memory, we used to call it, that can hold data in temporary basis. So data is stored in temporary. What do you mean by temporary? When power goes off, so whatever the content inside the RAM is erased. Now, for example, if you are like make a painting using paint, and if the powers goes off, then whatever you have drawn so far will be erased because it's temporarily stored in RAM. So if you look at the capacity, it measures in what we call the bits. Remember, the amount of space you need to store either 1 and 0. We will learn, we know that computer works with binary. Now, when you say binary, you have two values. That means 0 and 1. The amount of space you need to store either 1 or 0, we call a bit, right? So binary digit. So the term bit comes from binary digit. So binary digit, a bit can hold either 0 or 1. Right. But when it comes to memories, usually you will measure using megabyte or gigabyte. The spellings byte is wrong here. It should be BYTE, not BITE. The correct one should be BYTE. So megabytes or gigabytes. So usually, if you look at the relationship between megabytes and the gigabytes, 1024 megabytes equal to 1 gigabytes. Right? That's how the measurement goes. Right. Now let's move on to the activity 1.5. Right. I want you to identify the memory space in some computers. So I will compare and to identify the RAM size in these computers. So let's start with the i5 machine. What is the RAM size? Dhananji?
8 GB.
Yes, the memory or RAM is 8 GB. Let's move on to the next one. What to do? Dhananji?
2 GB.
It's 2 GB. Good. Stenhill, what is the RAM size here?
Two point zero GB.
Yes, it's 2 GB again. In iPad, if I remember correct, it has not given. Let me check carefully. It is not given here, but I checked in the internet. So in this model, you have 4 gigabytes of memory, right? So it was not given here. So that details is missing. But when I check in the internet, it has about 4 gigabytes of RAM. So the RAM part we have done, right? Then the display adapters. You know that when we have a computer, to see what's happening inside, we have to connect it to a monitor. Now, when you want to connect a monitor, then you have to connect to this, what we call the video graphics adapter card, right? So what you see in this figure is a VGA card, video graphics adapter. And through that, you are going to send signals from the system unit to the monitor. Sometimes the cards are separated like this, what is given in the picture. Sometimes it's on board. You don't have a separate card as per se. So everything is included in the motherboard. Right. Now, when we say the interfaces, early days we had what we call the VGA. The port is look like this, right? VGA. And the recent one we call HDMI. The new computers, now you have HDMI. Now some machines, for example, right, you have both VGA and HDMI. But in the middle, there's another one called DVI. Some of the monitors, some of the computers, you see this port. This is called DVI port, digital visual interface port, DVI port, right? It comes after VGA, but before HDMI. Or it was not that popular, but still some computers uses DVI. So these are different types of video ports. Okay, simple question now. Now, what is your video, output in your machine? You have a VGA or DVI or HDMI or both, VGA and HDMI. What do you have in your machine? Senhiru?
Both VGA and HDMI I have.
Okay. So Dhananji's case, Dhananji said she's having both VGA and HDMI ports. Yes. For example, in my machine, my laptop, I have only HDMI. I don't have VGA now, right? So the newer machines, we don't have VGA anymore. But some machine, it consists of both VGA and HDMI. Senator, how about you in your machine? What do you have in your machine? So what you have to do, Senhiru, just look at your out monitor cable, and if you look at the end of the cable, you can identify the type of the port. Yes, Senhiru.
Sir, I have HDMI port.
Okay, so you have HDMI port. Good. So you see, when you are going to connect to a monitor or a projector, you have one of these ports. In the TV, in your TV, you might have these ports, right? So this is the port you use to connect, you know, the graphics adapter, we call it, right? Then the next thing that we need to discuss, we call the sound cards. Right? You know that if you look at the backside of your computer, you normally see three colored ports like this. Any computer you have, right? Three colors. So you have a light blue, green, and red. You have pink, right? Basically. So these are called sound ports. Right? And then the purpose of these three is different. Now, for example, we can get audio in if you want to input something. To get the output, you have a green one. For example, for buffers, right? You have to connect to green port. So the middle one, actually, you can use mics. Right? So those are the three places we have. So the light green you see, it's an audio out, which means you can connect a speaker or headphone. You can use a light green one. Then the pink one is to mic in. Light blue, we have sound with external devices. Right? So this is what we have with these devices. Right, now with that one, we finish our discussion of what we have. Okay, so sound cards we discussed. Right now, let's look at our specs again, and we'll try to see what adapters those computers has. Right, we talk about the memory earlier. Right, what adapters you might see in this one. So first one, we have the laptop, right? See whether you can identify any of the connectivities are given. Whether it has given anything like this. It seems that yes, it has not given any video output details. So usually, if you look at those information are normally given whether the computer has a VGA interface as well as HDMI. Let me check the core to do spec. We have sound on board sound, right? And then what do you have? Ports, audio port, USB port, power button. Okay, here. Now, if you look at this one spec, they have given you. Normally you will have this information, the number of ports. The rear side you will see we have VGA port and a DVI port, right? This computer has two video type ports, VGA and DVI, both are there. So let's look at the touch spec. Normally these computers, you don't have any interface actually, because they are just touchpad and the screen comes with that. So they normally will not include any of these video adapters, and same here. Right. Now, by now, actually, we have discussed about the random access memory, right? And then we discuss VGA, the adapter details, and then we discuss the sound card details. Right. The next one, pre-installed software. Now, when you purchase a computer, usually you will get software as well, right? Now, so far what we have discussed is hardware stuff. And then to work, we need software as well. Now, there are two types of software available. One is we call operating system. Now, if you go back to my specifications, I told you my machine has Windows 10 operating system. And that's for the operating system. And then you have application software like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Paint. So those are known as application softwares. So usually you will have a set of software comes in as application software as well as operating system. So using this software, you interact, a particular person can interact with the hardware. So that's how usually it works. Right. So that's about the software. So you should know, like, there are different operating systems. Now, like Windows 10, you have to purchase it. We call license operating system. But if you take Ubuntu, Linux type operating system, they are free and open source. You don't have to pay anything. Okay. Now, when you purchase a computer, what we have discussed so far is technical features. Now, processor speed, memory speed, hard disk capacity, they are all comes under technical features. But there are some non-technical features also you need to consider. Right? Now, first one is a warranty. Now, when you purchase something, there should be a guarantee that if something goes wrong within this particular period, they should look at it, right? So when you're purchasing a warranty, that means manufacturer will give you coverage if something goes wrong. So usually warranties are 1 year, 2 year, even you can have extended years like 4 years if possible, right? So when you talk about the warranties, there are three types of warranties. The first one we call manufacturer warranty. If something goes wrong in the manufacturing process, right, they will give us manufacturer warranty, which means if something goes wrong with the machine, they either replaced, right, repair, or they replace with a new one. So sometimes we say, okay, no question asked, right? And then you can have extended warranty. So there will be a usual time period, like 1 year warranty. So normally we'll say 1 year warranty for parts. Then if you want to extend this, you can purchase what we call extended warranty, like for 4 years. Normally, these sellers, they will give you a limited warranty, like 1 year or 2 years. But then you can extend the warranty, like 3 to 4 years. It's possible, right? You have to pay some additional money, and you can, extend to the number of years as 3 and 4. But you have to spend some money for that, right? Getting extended warranty. Then there's another warranty type called on-site warranty, right? On-site means if something goes wrong, they will come to your place. Especially if you are in an institute, and if you want to make sure that everything smoothly working, so you have to get, right, a person who capable of doing. So they should come to your place. We call on-site warranty. Right. Now, for example given here, a laptop computer with a standard warranty for 3 years. But you have only 1 year for the battery. The other parts you have 3 years, but for the battery, you have only 1 year. So that's about the warranty. Next one, it's a price, right? So you have to pay more for high speed computer. If you have a large monitor, you have to pay a lot, right? So depend on your requirement, you have to consider price as well. Okay, so I think I will stop for today. And then although I stop, you have some work to do once I finished. So I will send you these 4 specification in the chat, WhatsApp, right? And then I want you to go through this. Identify these details. 1.6 activity, identify the central processing unit, RAM, hard disk, screen type, system, guarantee, and the price, right? Whenever you have, price is sometimes not listed in all the specs, but we need, I want you to identify these what we call the technical details, right? Right. Okay. So let me share. Okay. So we have a small game as well. Dhananjay, have you played earlier a quiz game? Have you finished quiz game? No, right? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll start. Now for that, you have to go to kahoot.it. So can you go to this website, www.kahoot.it? Right? Have you visited that place, Dhananjay? Website? Okay. So spellings mistake. So let me use the correct one. It should be Kahoot. Dharanji, is it okay? Have you gone to this website?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So then it will ask some game pin. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will give the game pin. Okay, wait for the game pin. Right. Okay. So the time is limited. We have only 4 minutes. So shall we quickly log out and can you connect it again? Otherwise, we might not be able to finish this, right? I will stop this and can you reconnect in the Zoom again?